Hello, Hamish here from mortgagesonline.co.nz with Kyle Boonan from Inspect House NZ. How are you, Kyle?
Yeah, good, thanks, Hamish. Good, good.
Kyle is kind enough to share some very handy tips, three tips actually that we'll get into about house maintenance, right? Because it's important to have a house, but you got to actually do stuff. You got to look after it, right, Kyle?
Yeah, I think I'd love to be able to buy a house and sit back and it be perfect from day one to day end. But yeah, unfortunately, there's a few things you need to do to ensure the longevity of it.
Yeah, and I guess the thing that worried me was I had a call from a client the other day. Beautiful home that we'd helped them with maybe a decade ago, quite a while ago, and they actually have has ended up with a repair bill probably more than 50 grand
Um,
because they were not aware that they actually have to oil their cladding or oil the outside of their house every 7 or 10 years, right? Which or maybe quicker with the weather sometimes, I guess. But it basically the wood shrunk. Have you
like,
seen that before, Kyle? That kind of thing.
is it like a cedar type
Yes,
cladding or
it was.
something?
Yeah, cedar.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, there's obviously a few things you want to keep. And same goes for whether it be something like cedar with the oil or as you can see on the picture here, a painted type finish on a traditional weatherboard. If you don't look after it, then over time things do start to happen. And it sounds like what you're talking about with your client, the lack of cover, if you like, there that resulted in the weatherboards maybe cupping and starting to warp a little bit, and they probably had to do, replace a bunch of it perhaps, and then go through the motions of re-oiling.
Yeah.
Um,
So oiling's one thing. So painting as well. Every how many years do you reckon normally?
I mean, it really comes down to the finishing of it in the first place, so the workmanship that goes into the prep and stuff. But I would say every 7 to 10 years is a good kind of gauge, and obviously reassess that and look at it as you go. So if you start to see things wearing out in bits and pieces in different areas, then maybe look at addressing that earlier. So yeah,
And Kyle, I guess what can you do every year, kind of thing, to look after your home? Would-
yeah. So I guess what you can do is go through whether it be yourself or maybe you can find a local company that does house washing. That's a good thing to, I guess, extend the life of the paint job, looking after it, getting rid of all the grit and grime and anything that builds up over time, especially going through the cooler seasons. So times like now is probably a good time to, whilst it is a bit drier, and go through the motions and have your house cleaned.
Wash
Yeah,
and keep the water. I know we Indians love our water blasters, Kyle.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, maybe keep those for your driveways and your boat or something else, mate. I think they can be a little bit, albeit a great sense that you feel good when you see an instant result using your water blaster. But I think you probably end up costing you down the track where you've
It
done a
can
bit of
damage
damage.
it, right, Kyle? And that's what I need to share with my dad as well. You know he needs to give up that love for the water blaster because there's some good chemicals around you can just use as well, right? These days.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some environmentally friendly stuff you can get off the shelf from most of the normal sort of home good suppliers, but.
And this picture, there's a beautiful garden happening here in the gutter.
Yep. Some micro herbs growing there. So no, that's it, mate. So that's a perfect example again. Another maintenance tip. I mean, you want to go through the motions, especially coming through those wet seasons. And this year's been pretty wet across the board. So, you know, clearing your gutters once a year is definitely a good idea. I'd make sure that if you do it yourself, that you make sure you put a ladder up and that it's secure, because some you don't know how sturdy some of your guttering is and stuff. So make sure you've got a good footprint there. But then put on some gloves and go through, clean all the debris out, and then hose it off and hose all the leftover through afterwards, and stops blockages, things like this. If you have a lot of dirt and grass and bits and pieces growing up within the gutters, and you get blockages, water can then seep back in and go into your soffit, which is the piece that overhangs out the side of your property there, or into the ceiling linings and all sorts of stuff. or creating blockages down the bottom of wherever your downpipes come out and the
Yeah.
like. So yeah,
And just make it
yeah,
more expensive. And I guess the other thing, well, what's another good tip? Sometimes maybe keep the gardens away from the house sometimes as well.
yeah, yep, that's it. I mean, I don't know how many houses we come across where people have planted a beautiful tree, but realise it grows into a big tree eventually. It's not so nice when it's in its full size. So vegetation up against cladding and houses can be very problematic. I've had that happen at a property that we purchased with cabbage trees, where they've planted them right on the boundary, right alongside the house, and it's ended up growing through and actually damaging the sapphire on the property. Then also causes like build up mold and mildew in behind. Then there's other things like, blocks light and stuff to get into your house, so you have damp, and there's a range of things. So as you see in this photo with the hedging being back away from the property, there's probably
Because some houses used to have the old ventilation things on the bottom there as well of the cladding, right?
Yeah, that's right, mate. And you're right. If you've got vegetation growing up against it, then the house can't ventilate underneath properly either, and it needs that to ensure it's drying, obviously, and then that helps with warmth inside the property as well. So yes, definitely, if you can remove any gardens or ensure that there is adequate ventilation underneath as well.
Cool. Well, look, thank you for your time, Kyle. Inspect House from Inspect House NZ. Thanks for that.
No worries at all. But if need any further tips, happy to help.
Yeah, and thanks for watching. Hopefully that has been insightful. Have a good day.